Hello, some of you I've seen already tonight. I was struck by some of those talks, thanks to Nick and Meredith and Andrew, even if you did kind of tell people that what they were doing was wrong. But actually, that I think is the key, what I took around from that. I mean, we're talking about sustainability, we talk about environmental sustainability, we talk about biodiversity, we talk about organisational or financial sustainability, and what we've got in here, what we got on those talks was about how we've been sustaining bad practice and not sustaining good practice. And I think that's something that obviously that RedR is good at, is let's work about how we can sustain good practice. One of the ways we do that, obviously, is training. The sustainability element around that, training of trainers. We can have this multiplier effect. We also work very in local responses now, and so we're looking to therefore offset what is now being kind of stated as being a bad practice, is of putting internationals in where locals could do the job and they could do it better. So one of the projects we've got working at the moment is the Climate Change Disaster Risk Reduction project. And I want to explain how we're looking at sustainability through that project, and some of the people who work on that are here tonight. We've got Joe at the back and Alex. And so I wanted to kind of first start with a statistic, because Brits love statistics, and we especially love statistics around weather. So here we're going to talk about some weather. So July 2019 was 415th consecutive month of temperatures above the 20th century average. 415 months. That's a lot. So another statistic, apparently the last time with a normal temperature was in the year of Live Aid in 1985, and probably before some of these people at the back were born. Made you feel really old. And 2019, are they laughing now? They're saying, yes, it was before I was born. 2019 is currently tied with 2017. It's been the second hottest year on record. We've had a stompingly amazing summer, and yes, it's been great, but actually it's a symptom of something worse that we need to address. We also had this year, UK, France, and it's Belgium, the Netherlands, again had massive heat waves, which resulted in we had deaths, we had water rationing, school closures, all of this stuff, and that was in a developed economy, and that's in a developed economy that has systems in place that can deal with those things, and yet we still don't have systems in place to deal with those things. So imagine if you put that into a country which doesn't have those systems and it's not as resilient, what happens then? In a country where there's no social welfare nets, how do you do that? The cycle of poverty and vulnerability just continues. So we sought to address that via, by looking at these countries in the global south and saying, how can we look at that? And how can we look around best practice in climate change, disaster risk reduction, and have developed this project, and we have some funding for that, and are about to put in a proposal for a second round of funding. And I want to tell you a bit more about that project. So we started it in the Philippines, and we were training some middle management level in organisations to look at, the Philippines obviously is one of the hugely affected by climate change, and we were looking at how we could train the people in the Philippines to then have a multiplier effect and saying, actually, we've got this climate change, we've got these technical skills now to offset this, and how can we multiply that out? And this was, the project itself, we had 200 applicants for 40 places. The demand was absolutely huge, and the feedback we got also from the pilot is actually it's brilliant, and we're now looking at replicating that elsewhere, and even been talking today at the board on how we can look at that even outside of that in terms of normal kind of training that we do in a local context. So we did also look at how when we manage the project, not just in the training element of it, how we can do that better and how we can be more sustainable. One of the things we did was looking about offsetting carbon from the flights. We fly humanitarian carbon offsetting for flights. We are putting people all over the place. It's absolutely horrendous. Another thing we're doing and looking at is internally is around when we're looking at training and all the projects we do is we have these lovely workbooks that people love and they love to write things down in, and they like to say, yeah, okay, I've got this. but the amount of paper and the amount of printing we use is horrendous, and so we're working on how we can stop doing that and how we can be better in that in terms of where we're in our training. The other thing we were doing was about looking at single-use plastics, and we were looking at that and not having single-use plastics in our, well, actually in our office and also in all of the training venues. We're looking at how we procure training venues and how we can look at doing that better and doing that more effectively. Excuse me. So we are looking now, and I think it's one of the projects we've done recently in Mozambique was taking a local organisation and working with them after, and this was in Mozambique after cyclone Idai, don't know how you pronounce that, and they were a development organisation, a kind of grassroots organisation, been operating for a long while, but they didn't know the humanitarian sphere. I mean, I rang up the boss and I'm like, okay, have you plugged in, where are you? And he goes, oh, I'm in Maputo. I said, okay, have you been to see Idai yet? Have you docked in here? And he's like, I don't know this. I'm like, okay. And so I'm on the phone to a friend, Venetia, and I'm like, you're in Idai. I need you to talk to this person. I need you to document the system. What we did as RedR then is said, okay, we knew that the remit of this particular organisation called Makaya was, with a strong livelihoods focus. They had beekeepers, farmers, etc., all in there, all of these, and they were supporting these, and they were actually being devastated. So we deployed a livelihood specialist to mentor and guide them and to work with them to dock them into the system. And as a result from that, she managed to kind of work with their systems and their due diligence, enabling them to access funding. They're now working, they were on a sub from the Save the Children grant, and they've got lots of that. So we've worked with them to make them or sustain them and sustain their good practice that we're going to use local people rather than putting in loads of internationals. We then followed that up with some training around what I call Humanitarian 101, which is about then taking local responders who have no knowledge of the humanitarian system and say, this is what OCHA does, and this is what WFP does, and this is what UNHCR does, and they all fight together a lot, and they don't really like each other, and all of those things, and we talk about those things, and this is how you're going to access all this funding, and this is what you're going to have to do, and this is how you're going to have to play, and this is how you're going to walk the walk and talk the talk in the humanitarian sphere. And it's something we're looking about doing in future around localisation, is saying, how can we work with locals to develop their skills, which are in most cases better than the internationals that are coming in, and how are we going to look to multiply that out so we have local responders rather than the internationals. And I realised I went off on a big tangent at the end, away from the climate change thing. Joey's smiling at me, really sorry, but I really like the Mozambique thing, so yeah, and we're working towards that. So thank you again for the speakers tonight. I really enjoyed it, and thank you for coming.